Well, hello. Happy Sunday, y'all. Coach Yolanda here from Evolving Spirit Wellness. And I have a tear coming out of my eye, but I am not crying because I'm sad. I am just crying. Hey, y'all. Happy to be back with you guys. Last Sunday, there was a pause. We weren't able to come on. We just weren't able. No explanation needed. I'm grateful to be here now. And so let's focus on the here and now. And as we always do on Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, as you come into this space, whether you are watching live or on the replay, make sure you are taking care of yourself. And so we want to make sure that we are breathing. We want to make sure that we are comfortable, have some beverages if we need it, anything that you need to do to feel good, to feel settled as we talk about some inner child healing. Again, I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to be with you guys today because you never know. We never know how things are going to happen for us. And so I'm internally grateful for those of you who have reached out to say, hey, I miss you. Hope all is well. That means a lot. And I believe it is one of the reasons why we are able to be together today. I'm going to flip my glasses up. In my absence, I was doing some looking around at the YouTube channel. We are live on YouTube and on Facebook. We have to be Facebook friends. Well, I don't think we have to be Facebook friends, but if we're Facebook friends, you probably watch me there. If not, on YouTube. And I was just interested in numbers. You know, everything today is about numbers. And so I was interested to see that we are global. Now, through my spiritual life coaching practice under Evolving Spirit Wellness, I work internationally. But to see that people are viewing us. So, hello, India, Philippines, the UK, Indonesia, Australia, Vietnam, Germany, South Korea, and so many other places. I wanted to make sure that I said hello. And thank you for watching. I am grateful. Hey, my love, I am grateful to be back as well. I'm grateful to be feeling good in my somewhat my right mind, and to continue this discussion about feeling safe, about that birth to 18-month age period, that developmental stage that we all have gone through, is where particular things are developed. And so we've talked about trust. There are two parts of trust. I was able to record a video about trust part two. So that is on the YouTube channel. Because I wanted to do that before we talked about safety. Next week, we're going to talk about determination because these are the developmental skills that come into play in this age range. If you can remember back to when you were born, if you can remember back to when you were 18 months, then God bless you with a magnificent memory. Most of us have to go based upon pictures that we see or stories that are told, but we know for a fact that that age range, all of your basic needs are going to be met by your caregivers, hopefully. And so there's a lot of trust that goes into that, and there's a lot of safety. You cannot have trust without safety. You cannot have safety without trust, because if I don't trust you, then I probably don't feel safe with you. And if I don't feel safe with you, then I'm probably not going to trust you. And so in that age range, these things are developed. We cry as babies. We trust that someone safe is going to come to our aid and make sure that, our basic needs are met. Sometimes disruptions occur. Sometimes things are not as we would like for them to be. Sometimes, even with our best efforts, we cannot attend to everyone's needs. And so the same is true for you, for your caregivers who probably did the best that they could. Sometimes, we think about the childhoods that we have, and we always focus on, well, they didn't do this and they didn't do that and they didn't do this. It is my belief that everybody does what they are able and capable of doing. even if there is a story in your life that says, oh, they could have done better. Yeah, they could have, but they didn't. We can't go back and rewrite history, but we can certainly learn from it. And so I like to look at things, at the extremes. Maybe the extreme for you was a feeling of abandonment because your needs were never met. Maybe there were circumstances within your family dynamic where it just meant that certain things just never got met. Maybe you went hungry. Maybe, you were never in a stable environment. Maybe your emotional needs, your mental needs, your spiritual needs, your physical needs just were not met to the level that they needed to be. That is a story for many people. Or perhaps there's just, some delayed gratification. Maybe you cried and it took a while for your caregivers to get to you. I like to call them minor inconveniences that somehow, make us feel like, well, how come no one is addressing my needs? How come no one is taking care of me? Maybe in your caregiver's defense, they just didn't have the time, attention, and all of the other things that are necessary to attend to all of the needs of children from birth to age 18 months. Whatever the story was, what's the story now? And that is why we do the inner child work, to ask ourselves, what came out of that? What did I learn? What did I learn about being safe, keeping myself safe, watching how other people determine I was safe? Was I the type of child that may have cried and someone says, oh, stop it before I give you something to cry about? Maybe that was your experience, and now you don't know how to regulate your own emotions because someone else was doing that for you very early on in your life. Did you have an experience of, you know, maybe your caregivers weren't so great at taking care of their needs, so they just didn't have it to take care of yours. So, as an adult, you don't really take the best care of yourself. I will admit that when it comes to my body care, I'm not doing the best job that I could be doing. And I can absolutely say it wasn't something that was demonstrated in my childhood. My parents they were from the South. They like to eat. And so no one emphasized exercise, no one emphasized healthy eating, no one really emphasized those things. And so it wasn't something that I naturally knew how to do. It's something that I've had to learn, but I'm a backslider. I backslide from time to time. And so I don't fault my parents. I don't blame my parents for the things that I am responsible for now. But I do like to look back to see what was my earliest lesson so that I don't beat myself up if I'm not doing a great job. I can say, listen, this is new for you. It's not hard, it's new for you. And so it may take some time for you to develop habits that aren't natural for you. It may take some time for you to see the importance of particular things that just were not in your environment as you were developing. And so when you think about the way you care about your body now, when you think about the way you care about your mind now, when you think about the way that you care about your spirit now, what were your earliest lessons? And if you did not get a full education and you have to now be responsible for educating yourself on how to best take care of yourself, I hope that you are giving yourself grace. Because when we are young, it's easy to pick up on things. People are modeling behavior, there's repetition. As we get older, it can be more and more difficult to establish habits and rituals when you have been living in one reality and now go into another. So please give yourself grace. But when it comes to safety, I like to know, and I'm willing to answer for myself as well, how do you feel safe with yourself? The relationship that you have with yourself mirrors every other relationship that you will have. And while most of us will look to other people to make sure that we are safe, as we did when we were children, as adults, it's our responsibility. Now, we are all accountable for our behavior. So I want anyone around me who is not safe. But it's really my responsibility to create that energy of safety in my own mind, my own body, and my own spirit. And how do I do that? if there is programming or language that is counterintuitive to me being safe. And so we're going to look at that today. We're going to look at, are you meeting your basic needs first? Those basic needs of survival. Are you feeding yourself well? Are you moving your body? Are you doing the things to make sure that your mind is well? Again, I didn't get that type of behavior modeling when I was younger. No one in my family talked about mental illness, mental health. I can't even remember my first encounter with someone saying anything positive about resting and take care of themselves. I just don't call it. Nowadays, self care is this buzzword, and I really wish we could find something else because it makes it seem as though it's something you do when you have time, when really it is essential to the way that you live every single day, every single moment. There needs to be an element of you caring for yourself in everything you do so that you can shore up feeling safe for yourself. So we're not waiting for other people to create that energy of safety because really only we know what safety feels like for us. We all have different definitions. We all have different criteria. And the interesting thing about it is we have all of the stuff going on in here and we don't always share it with other people. And yet we hold them to that standard. We don't let people know that in order to get close to me, you've got to go through some hoops. I'm not going to tell you how many hoops there are. I'm not going to tell you that some of those hoops are on fire. I'm not going to tell you how wide those hoops are, but they're hoops. We all have this list of things that we want other people to meet our standards, but we don't always share them. But then we get frustrated when people don't meet those standards. And so, for the experiences that you've had as a child, again, you may not have a conscious awareness of what those experiences are. You may have had to rely on what other people have told you about the type of baby that you were and about the type of care that you got. Um, as you get older, you may have more memories of what safety felt like then and what it feels like now. But we must all understand that the development of the safety happens so early, and it's one of the reasons why so many of us are challenged by feeling safe, because it really is dependent upon our caregivers. When you are born into this world, you have to rely on the people that you go home with to take care of you. You have no idea if they are capable of doing it or not. They probably had no idea if they were capable of doing it or not. And I guarantee you that something got lost in translation because every human being that enters into the world is unique. Their needs are unique. Even if we look beyond the basic needs, there are things that we all need, that our spirit needs, that our soul needs, that other people may not be aware of. I can remember as I got older, my mother saying to me sometimes, I just don't understand you. Sometimes I just don't understand you. And I really, really believe that she was telling the truth, that there were things about me that were beyond her comprehension. And she just didn't have what she needed to feed those parts of my personality and my character. Thank goodness that there were other individuals who could put up with a weird kid and who understood and who knew. But my mother would be frustrated sometimes. She'd be like, I just don't understand you. I don't know why you do the things you do, say the things that you say. I don't know where you came from. So if you have had a similar experience where it feels like you were born into a family that just doesn't understand you or you just felt different, then again, have some grace with yourself, have some grace with your caregivers that they did the best that they could, and they were also going through their own healing journey. But as we are adults, as we are all now at this point in our lives where we are still dealing with inner child issues, that fear of intimacy can absolutely come if you've had an experience of abandonment. And if you've lived on this earth for any significant amount of time, you have had experience of abandonment. It could have been a loss from either death or divorce, some type of separation. Doesn't matter how it impacted you, it impacted you. This is not about you comparing your experience of loss with someone else. No matter what that was, that can feel like abandonment. Some of us have had an experience of neglect where there were particular things that you may have needed and it just was not provided. Maybe you were not poured into in the way that you deserve to be. Maybe there were particular talents that you had that no one else poured into, no one else even asked you about. How many artists do we have that are not actually participating in the arts because no one followed up with them, no one poured into them to explore how far they could go in that particular medium? And so avoiding intimacy may be something that you do as an adult as a survival technique. Now, last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about changing defense mechanism to protective measures. As we age, as we get older, we start to develop these protective measures to keep ourselves safe. And so, for many of us, numbing our emotions feels like a safe thing to do because I need to avoid an intimacy, because I know what abandonment and neglect feels like. And who the heck wants to experience that? No one. So it makes perfect sense if people numb their emotions. Now, that also limits your human experience. But to me, it makes perfect sense when people say, I'm emotionally unavailable, or I know people who are emotionally unavailable. It's a protective measure. Somewhere in that person's past may be an experience of abandonment, of loss, of neglect. And so to protect themselves, it's like we are on shutdown. We don't want to feel anything from the neck down. We are shut down. We don't want to feel anything. All of my overthinkers who are always constantly coming up with scenarios and stories and things in our head, that is a protective measure. You're trying to look at all of the angles to make sure you have all of the bases covered, to make sure that there's no vulnerable places within you that could potentially be harmed. That is a protective measure of survival that comes from the experience of being hurt. And it possibly, if we get down to the nitty gritty of it, there is something within there that says, I have to protect myself because no one else will. And underneath that may also be a story of, I have to protect myself because I'm not worthy of protection. And so we have to get to the root and to the bottom of why we do the protective measures that we do and why we keep these walls up. Like the other opposite of that spectrum could be people who have severe attachment disorder, meaning they're needy, always in a relationship, can't be without a relationship, can't make choices or decisions without everybody's input. Those feelings could be rooted in, I'm nothing without other people's comments, concerns, and judgments, because maybe my experience as a young person was I wasn't able to do anything by myself. I always had someone doing something for me, so I never developed a sense of me being safe with me. I have to depend upon other people to feel safe. And so I'm needy and I attach and I don't know how to detach. And I'm constantly looking for external validation because I haven't learned how to cultivate my own self value. Now, those are extremes. But that doesn't mean that all of us at some point can't go between those extremes. I know I am guilty of sometimes wanting to be around people, but also not wanting them in my face. It could go from hour to hour. And again, it depends upon the level of safety that we feel with ourselves, that we will allow ourselves to feel safe with other people. That does not mean that we did not have the experience of people being unsafe. Sometimes it is the very caregivers whose responsibility it is to make sure that you are safe who are the unsafe people. And that can create a whole host of things that, vacillate between that I'm really, really needy because I didn't have appropriate caregivers to I don't get close to anyone because I didn't have appropriate caregivers. And so we have all of this stuff from our life experience that shows up now and says, can you heal me? Can you give me what I need? Can you make sure that my needs are met? Because I can remember that energy is still in my body. I know what it feels like when my needs are not met. I know what it feels like when someone is hovering over me and I don't have my own voice. And I know what it feels like when people are ignoring me and no one is hearing my voice. You could have all of those experiences in your childhood. And a lot of that may not even have a memory for you because it could have happened when you were so young that you're not even familiar. It's not even a conscious thing. And so you might be baffled trying to figure out, why, as an adult, do I have issues with intimacy and vulnerability? Why, as an adult, do I feel like I can't be by myself? Why? Well, ask your inner children. What is it that you need? What are you calling for? What are you looking for? You know, you might be the unsafe person in the relationship because you are not meeting your own needs. I don't know where the messaging started, that somehow it is selfish for us to think about ourselves and take care of ourselves and make sure that we are well. But certainly that message has, I know I heard it. I don't know if you've heard it, but I know that I've heard it, that we are supposed to make sure that we take care of everyone else first and then we leave ourselves last. Again, that can come from the disruption of the basic needs being met when you needed them most. We need, all babies come into this world needing to be taken care of. People do it to the best of their ability and sometimes still fall short. This isn't about blaming. This isn't about projecting. This is about discovery that there may be something in my past history that disrupted the safety that all babies come here looking for and needing. Perhaps you got sent to the babysitter at a very early age. Perhaps there were so many people in your house that, everybody was taking care of you. So you never really developed a particular type of connection with any one person because you had no idea where your needs were going to get met and who was going to meet those needs. So many different experiences could have happened when you were younger that still show up now. So if you recognize, acknowledge, and understand that you have fear of intimacy or attachment styles are not to your liking, meaning it's very difficult for you to make decisions by yourself, meaning you always have to be in not just a romantic relationship, but you have to have people around, you have to have friends around. You have to just have input, external input from others to make you feel safe. Or if you're like me, I can be alone for quite some time and be perfectly okay. None of those two extremes are what any one of us was created for. We are a communal people, whether we recognize it or not. Yes, Marissa, so much of how we navigate the world as adults is informed by what happened in our earliest years. And I'm so grateful that we are taking the time to slow down and really give, a lot of light and attention so that we don't feel so horrible as adults to say, I don't know why I can't, have lasting relationships, or I don't know why I'm having such an issue with trusting other people or trusting my own voice. I don't know why. I don't know why. Because there may be something within your memory or that's not in your memory that's like, hey, it's me, baby Yolanda, trying to let you know that there is an unmet need coming to the surface. Hey, my dear, and I would like for someone to address it. How many of us even got a lesson on how to ask for love? Dare I say that? That is a developmental skill that all humans should be learning. How do I get my needs met? How do I appropriately ask for love, care, attention? Well, first of all, you have to acknowledge that you deserve it. and that it is part of body care, mind care, and spirit care. When was the last time somebody hugged you really, really tight? When is the last time someone cuddled you like a baby? When is the last time you felt so comfortable around another human being that you felt more like yourself than you ever had? These are genuine questions. And who taught you how to do that? Who taught you how to be vulnerable? Maybe you are the type of person who loves physical affection, but everybody you come in contact with is not a physical, touchy, feely type of person. I feel that I was lucky because my mother was quite affectionate. My father was not. So here I have these two realities. I'm thinking the way you express love to somebody is you give them a hug. One parent is like, yep, bring it on in here. Let me hug you. The other parent is like, what do you want? What is this? What are you doing? And so all of that foundational stuff comes up as an adult. But who really teaches us how to ask for love? Or that we have the ability to do that without saying, I need somebody to love me? Who teaches us how to have intimate moments? Who teaches us how to be vulnerable? We get a whole lot of lessons about how to put up walls and how to keep yourself safe and don't talk to that person and don't talk to that person and you don't tell anybody what's going on with you, hide and suppress your feelings. If you're on a first date, don't act like you're hungry. Like we get all of this messaging about how to pretend. We get very little messaging about how to be authentic and how to be real. And that is because sometimes it doesn't always feel safe to do that. So we have to learn, how do I feel safe in here and in here so that I show up as my most authentic self? And how can I give my inner children the thing that they need most? I don't know if any of you have TikTok. I feel like everybody does. I deleted mine because I realized it was taking up a lot of my time. But there was a challenge where parents were just going up to their children and kind of laying in their lap to see what their child's response was. And it was interesting to see how some of these kids were like, I don't know what's going on here, mom, you're being weird. And how some of them were like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I needed. So we can see examples of how that foundational need for nurturing can get ingrained in children. And here we are as adults struggling and being challenged with intimacy, vulnerability, authenticity, and basic care. Basic care. As a former, I should start saying former massage therapist, most of what I saw with individuals was them being touch deprived. We are a touch deprived society, and that is because there are individuals who do not know how to do that appropriately. But there are senses all over our body that need that input. We need to hold hands. We need to hug one another. We need that input. And without it, there's a part of us that gets neglected. But some of that can come from that birth to 18-month-old range that we may not even remember. How often were you held as an infant? And if you were held, what was the energy that was holding you? Was it a rushed and hurried energy, which you as a child absorbed? Did someone sing sweetly to you and rock you to sleep? Or did someone try to help you figure it out? That was something that started in the 80s where we were just laying babies in the crib and telling them to cry it out. You got to figure out how to self regulate your own emotions. We've done so many things to disrupt the natural instinct of safety that now as adults we're all trying to find it. So let's meditate on that. Let's meditate on, do I feel safe with myself? Do I feel emotionally safe with myself? Or do I feel like, as a protective measure, I still need to numb some of my emotions? Do I avoid intimacy, and not just with others, but with myself? How often are you telling yourself the truth? How often are you being real with yourself? Are you, able to bring up things from your past or your most recent present to examine them and take a look at them? Or are you on that toxic positivity train where even when, horrible things are happening, you're just putting blinders on and saying everything is good, everything is good, everything is good. Maybe your mind does not feel like a safe place. Maybe your heart doesn't feel like a safe place. Maybe the physical environment that you are in, based upon some of the choices that you have made, makes you think that you're not a safe space. Hmm. Sometimes we punish ourselves unnecessarily by beating ourselves up and saying things like, well, if you hadn't done this and if you hadn't done that, then you wouldn't be in the position that you're in. That contributes to us not trusting ourselves, and it contributes to us not feeling safe in our own presence. Um, if you watch the video that I did on Trust Part 2, I talked about how a lot of the messaging that we hear as children may not have been intentionally done to hurt or harm us, but that may have been the way that we processed it. If you are born into a family of multiple children and you hear your mother or your father say, oh, it's just too many of y'all, I can't keep up, you know, totally harmless statement. But hearing that over and over can send a message that there's something wrong with me and I make this environment unsafe. And so, not everything that we hear was done to hurt or harm us. Sometimes, even when our caregivers are doing things that they believe will keep us safe, it can have the opposite effect. And so, how safe do you feel with reliving or examining the environment that you grew up in? Not to blame anyone, not to betray anyone, but to be honest with yourself that, you know what, I probably could have gotten a better deal when it came to my emotional diet. People didn't really think about those things. People didn't really think about the mental health of infants and children. And so maybe those things were missed. But as an adult, if you identify that, perhaps you can do something about it. And so we're going to meditate on that. How do I become the safest place for me? My mind, my heart, my spirit. How can I look at any issues of abandonment or neglect, any issues of attachment issues? How can I look at those things with the perspective of, I want to heal that. I want to give my inner children what they may not have received because I have the ability to do that. Last week I talked about continuously telling yourself, I was innocent. It was not my fault. I was a child born into a world that may not have been able to support me in all of the ways that I needed. But as an adult, I can do that for myself. I can create that safety in my mind, in my body, and in my spirit by number one, telling the truth and trusting myself. By recognizing that I'm not doing this work to tear anyone apart, that I'm not trying to dismantle the memory or legacy of anyone. I'm not trying to make my parents, my caregivers, my grandparents, aunts, uncle. I'm not trying to make my family out to be the bad guy. I am attempting, and I'm going to succeed at healing those issues that I recognize are getting in the way of me having a full human experience. I don't want to live behind barriers. I don't want to live behind walls. I want to have an expansive experience. I want my heart to be able to feel safe at all times. I want to be able to trust myself. I want to be able to say that I know that what lives in me is true and honest. I want to be able to hear my voice and know that it is my voice alone. I want to be able to walk in this world knowing that I'm here on purpose. I want to feel safe, and I deserve that. I have needs that deserve to be met, and I'm not afraid to acknowledge what those needs are and to ask for them. And so let's take a deep breath wherever we are, making sure that you are safe, making sure that whatever you need in this moment, that you are meeting that need. And as we breathe together, let us also recognize that we are together to make sure that we are a safe space for one another. One of the things that I am most grateful for and proudest of about this time that we have together is that it has been designed and created for safety. That no one here is dependent upon another, and that no one here is, neglecting another. We are all here on one accord. It's my belief. I hold that energy in within me, which is why I enjoy doing this every single Sunday, because for me it is a safe place. It is a place for me to be vulnerable. It's a place for me to explore my own issues with intimacy. You know, I don't know about y'all, but I don't like being on camera. And I don't always like telling all of my business, but I feel safe to do it. And so I'm grateful for the feedback that I receive in this space. I have to acknowledge that not everyone feels that way all of the time. We have moments when we feel like we are aligned with our most authentic self. And then there are those moments where, something comes up. And for me, when those issues arise, I know it's my inner children saying, hey, we didn't learn how to do this all those many years ago. And so this is making us feel uncertain. This is us making us feel unsettled. And in my right mind, I can take a breath and say, all right, guys, I got this. We got this. Let's see what's coming up. Let's see what is coming up and saying, I don't feel safe, so that we can create that energy within us. You have that ability. I have that ability. We do not have to continue on this path of, well, this is who I am and this is how it is, and I'm never going to change. We absolutely have the right to change our mind about the way in which we are at any given moment and say, I want something different. And so, as we are taking a breath together, as we are creating an energy of safety together, I want you to envision and think about, when do you feel the safest in your mind? Let's start with our mind first. And our mind is made up of our mental and emotional energy. When do you feel emotionally safe? Perhaps if you're lucky, it's with a group of friends or maybe your family, where if something is troubling you or challenging you, you can let it rip. You can say what's on your mind. You can speak from your heart space. It may not be a group, it might be just one other person. And even if there's just one other person that is your person, count yourself as lucky. And if you also identify that there isn't really a person that you feel that you can have that level of intimacy with, then understand that there may be opportunity for you to rediscover your relationship with the God of your understanding, with the universe, with spirit, with your source. If there is not a human counterpart that you feel that you have developed a safe space with, then this might be your divine opportunity to create that with your source of all things, by with whatever name you happen to call that energy, that entity. That may be why some of those things have been removed from your life. Maybe you had a person and that person may have been removed. And so there is this longing within you that says, I lost something dear when I lost that partner of mine that I could share anything with. This may be your opportunity to say, I want to create that energy. I want to cultivate that energy that was there, that remains there, and I want to connect with the co creative energy that is within the universe. Take some practice to do that, but we all have that ability. And so take a deep breath and tell yourself, I am in this right now moment, I am safe. I am connecting with that energy that exists within me and that always has. And because I have experienced that level of intimacy and closeness with another, I know that I can create that within myself. And so, if it is a group, if it is one person, if it is that co creative relationship that you have, please take a deep breath and, in full gratitude, say thank you. I am thankful that when I need my mind, my mental and emotional energy to find a safe place to land, that I know where to go. And if intimacy is something that I am still developing, I am grateful for the patience and the grace that have been offered to me as I learn to expand my own feelings and experiences of intimacy and vulnerability. Because I know that aligns with authenticity and truth, honesty, and trust. I am willing to expand that experience more and more. I am grateful that in this right now moment, I can recognize that I've always had that ability within me. And it may not have been poured into in the way that I needed and desired. But as I am acknowledging it now, I have the ability to expand it. And as you are taking a deep breath and thinking about that connection that you have with other people, another person, or that energy that you are creating within your own heart space, expand that out just a bit. And if you can remember, when was the last time someone held your hand, hugged your body, let you sit in their lap so that you felt safe and cared for and protected? And as you are thinking about that memory, I hope you recognize that you deserved it then, you deserve it now, and you deserve it always. To have that feeling of warmth and comfort. And if there is something going on within your mind right now that feels like it is pushing that level of comfort out of the way, then simply take a deep breath. Pose your request to the universe and know that it will be answered, and say, I have needs of comfort. I have needs of intimacy and love and care and affection. And I may not be able to create it in my mind because there may be some mental block, some emotional block that's getting in the way of that. And I acknowledge it. And so I'm asking for support. I'm asking for support from wherever my source of all that is comes from. And I know that you hear me, that I recognize that there are times in my life where I am hiding, where I am numbing, or there are times in my life where I'm not trusting myself. And so I'm unable to regulate appropriate intimacy and vulnerability in my life. I recognize that. And so I'm asking for support because I know as sure as I came into life, I had it. I had it instinctively. As a child, as a baby, as an infant, I know that I had that feeling of safety within my body, and something may have disrupted it. I am acknowledging that and accepting that in this moment, and I am now calling forth for it to be restored. And maybe it takes me beyond my comfort zone, but that's where the good stuff lives. And that is where I want to live, in full peace, in full harmony. And I recognize that I will have to have some patience in order to get there, because this may be a new skill, a new development for me. I recognize that maybe sometimes I put up this tough exterior And I pretend as if things don't bother me when I know damn well they do. And somewhere, probably before I was even born, this energy got started in my family where we just have to put on a tough exterior and we don't let people know what's going on with us emotionally or mentally. And I recognize that in doing so, I may not get my needs met because people may not recognize it, or I may not recognize what it is that I need until I'm overwhelmed, breaking down, frustrated, disappointed, and feeling unappreciated. Hmm. And so take a deep breath if that is your truth, that you know being a tough girl or being a tough guy is how you get through things. That is the protective measure that you may have engaged in that brought you to this point. And if it's working for you, baby, then keep doing it. But if you know the truth that that is not sustainable, that is not a sustainable way of feeling safe, then take a deep breath and ask for support and letting go of that tough exterior and letting people see the true you, the real you. Hmm. Hey, Miss Stephanie. Yes, let's call in that full peace, full harmony. And so we are calling in all energies that are listening, that are aware, and that are fully capable of pouring into us in the way that we deserve to support us with that healing element of safety, security, love, protection, care, and affection because we deserve it and we are not afraid to ask for it. And so, mentally and emotionally, we can feel that harmony and that peace coming in so that we are not looking for other people to keep us safe. And we're also not looking at everything as a threat. We are understanding that that full feeling of safety starts in here and in here and in every cell in our body. And perhaps one of our rituals that we now engage in every single morning is to remind ourselves that I am safe in my mind. And so, how many of us are feeling safe in our bodies? Whew. As someone who, is experiencing right now some illness and some unknown things, sometimes my body does not feel like a safe place. And as we age, that is a common occurrence where we don't know when we wake up what bruise am I going to find, what scratch, what ailment, what muscle is going to be sore, what thing am I not going to be able to see. Sometimes it feels like our bodies can be these unknown entities, and that can impact our feeling of safety. If we don't feel as though we can defend ourselves physically, again, it impacts our human experience where we limit what we do, where we go, how we go about it. Right now, there is some adventure living inside of your body, but because you don't feel safe in your body, you might not be exploring it. That's not the way babies and inner children behave. When you think about a baby, when they are learning to crawl, no matter how many times they fall down, they get right back up. And as we become adults, sometimes that diminishes. Someone says one thing about our body, we crash and we burn. And so sometimes our bodies don't feel like the safe space that they are. This is the only body that you've had since you came into existence. If you can't be best friends with your own body, how are you going to be best friends with anyone else? And so, right now, in this moment, let us make amends for all of the times that we may not have felt safe in our own body. Now, sometimes that is not because of our own doing. Sometimes other people impact the way we feel about our bodies and the safety that we find within them. When there are violations, when there is trauma, And hell, just living in the world and seeing what goes on to other people's bodies can also make you feel unsafe in your own. Certainly, as those of us who identify as women, we have heard messages over and over and over and over again across our lifespan that make it difficult for us to sometimes feel safe within our own bodies. And I say that we need to do something about that. We need to rewire the conversation around our own bodies, our beautiful bodies that have held us down. No matter what the condition may be, your body is there for you. It takes you places, it holds you, it allows you to have the experience of physical intimacy with others. But if we have been neglecting our own bodies, then how can we feel safe in our bodies? And so that's not just the way that we nurture ourselves, the way that we hydrate ourselves, the way that we move and exercise, the way that we hug and touch. It encompasses how we talk about our bodies. How kind are you to your body so that your body feels safe with you? I often will say, no wonder my thighs do what the heck they want because I don't talk nice to them. Maybe if I were nicer to them, they would be nicer to themselves. I don't know. We get so critical over our bodies, and that eats away at us feeling safe. We worry so much about what other people say about our bodies. What are people going to say about the way that I look? What are people going to say about the weight that I've put on or the weight that I've taken off? I just saw a story of a young lady who was dressed to the nines, and people were commenting, oh, she should have done this, she should have done that. My goodness, what are we doing to each other? Do we not recognize when we are critical and judging other people's bodies that we're also talking, our bodies are hearing that? How can I be safe with you when you are so busy judging and criticizing other people? And if you have to do that in order to feel safe in your own body, then that is something you need to explore. And so we have to think back to our inner children who came into this world thinking this must be a great place. All of this, you know, fighting and fussing I had to do to get here because birth is an experience unto itself. This must be a glorious place. And then we start to absorb all of the comments. Oh my God, look at the baby doesn't have any hair. The baby's too fat. The baby's too thin. The baby's too light. The baby's too dark. All of this commentary, even before babies come into the world. We want to know what the gender is. Sometimes we're happy about it, sometimes we're not. Let us be kinder to our bodies in this right now moment by taking a deep breath and saying, please forgive me, my precious vessel, for any time when I may not have felt safe or been the safe space that you needed, whether it is in my mind, in my spirit, or in my physical body. I declare right now I'm going to be nicer, kinder, gentler to my own body and to other people's bodies because we are all connected. You harm someone else's body, you might as well be harming your own. My body is a safe space. It is not the place for people to be disrespectful. It is not the place for people to be, unappreciative. My body is a great place, and everyone has to treat it that way. And I have to make sure that they do. How are you honoring your body? Are you making sure that the places and the environments that you walk into, go into, and stay in honor your body? Are you making sure that the people who are surrounding you honor your body and honor your presence? You may not have control over what people do and what people say, but you have full authority over your body. I know it doesn't feel like it when we think about some of the legislation that has been passed. We have to take control of our bodies and feeling safe in our bodies so that we can express how others should be talking about, treating, and legislating our own bodies. My body is a safe space. It's taken me almost 52 years to get to that point where I can say that to myself and that I can demand it from others. You don't get to dishonor my body. You do not get to dishonor my body. So, in this right now moment, that same energy that we created to make safety in our mental and emotional spaces, let's do that for our physical bodies. That if there are any entities that are listening to us right now, and we know that there are, we ask for that energy to come into this space at this right now moment. And if we can draw upon a memory when we felt physically safe, maybe it was with one of your caregivers, maybe it was with a partner, maybe it was with your family, your friends, or maybe it was a moment in time when you knew in your own mind that your physical body was safe. If you connected with that in the past, you can cultivate it and expand that now. Take a deep breath and just be grateful for the body that you have and all that it has endured to bring you to this right now moment where you can say, baby, I feel safe with you. I feel safe in my body. I feel safe in the skin that I'm in. I am not looking for external safety for my physical body. I am responsible for making sure that I am well and that the energy around me is well. And I'm fully capable of doing so. If there is anything that is in your mind right now that is challenging you to believe that, then acknowledge it. Again, you may be going through some physical challenges right now where maybe your body does not feel safe. Ask for the support that is necessary and needed for your body to be well. Ooh, I hope you are continuing to take some deep breaths because we also have to make sure that our spiritual body, that we're spiritually caring for ourselves. How many times do we talk about our spiritual practice? Do you have one? Are you engaged in it? Is it supporting you? Is it making you feel connected? Is it making you feel as though whatever abandonment, neglect, whatever inconveniences or disruptions have occurred in your life, you have a foundation that you can stand on spiritually that reminds you that you're a spiritual being having a human experience. And as a spiritual being, you have the ability to create safety spiritually when you are engaged in things like meditation and prayer or journaling or just being still. I often speak to individuals who say, I don't know how to just be still. Well, then, baby, you better increase your spiritual practice because if you don't feel safe with you not doing anything, then are you really feeling safe? Those of us who have to keep busy, keep busy, keep busy, keep busy, let your nervous system rest. If there is messaging in your past where you have to be doing something, please get some new messaging and a different perspective. Being at rest, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, can be one of the most healing things that you can do for your body. Stop being so busy. Stop filling your calendar up with so many different things, keeping your mind busy, busy, busy so it doesn't have time to feel. Keeping your body active, 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 so it doesn't have time to rest. If we want to feel safe, if we want to feel whole, if we want to trust ourselves, and if we want to transition into what we'll talk about next week with determination, if we want to do those things, then we have to be spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally well. And again, we have to feel safe. For those of you who, like me, are all about the energy centers, that it's a root energy center issue when you do not feel safe. The root chakra is at the base of the spine. That is a root chakra issue if you don't feel safe. And I know that there are so many things going on in the world that can contribute to us not feeling safe. We have to be safe here. We have to be safe here because we cannot always rely on external forces creating safety for us. So, what does it mean to feel safe? When do you know you feel safe? And for those of you who say, I don't feel safe most of the time, then I would offer that a spiritual practice is one of the remedies for regaining that sense because you came here with it. You came here with it as an infant. You came into this world trusting because you didn't know how to do anything. You didn't know how to get your basic needs met. You had to trust that other people were going to do that for you. And again, that may have been disrupted. And if that was the case, and I believe it was the case for all of us, because who really can meet all of the needs of any one individual? I can't even meet all of my basic needs in one day. We do the best that we can. But as adults, we have to identify and recognize when that is stirring in our spirit, when we are feeling like we're numbing. Oh, I'm emotionally eating because there's something that I don't want to deal with emotionally. Or, oh, I'm avoiding intimacy because there's something that, I didn't learn how to do. Or, I'm really, really needy today. Well, what is it that I need? What is the desire? And how do I get it? How do I meet it? Do I need other people to support me in that? And if I do, how do I ask? How do I make the request? I have to believe that I deserve. I have to believe that it's available. And I have to believe that it's going to come in the most loving form possible. We cannot leave love out of the equation. We should not. So when you are making requests, if you are making a request and it's like, this is not going to be good, guess what? It's not going to be good. So train yourself to recognize that when you are making requests, you're making it from a place of love. You're making it from a place of, I understand that this is a need that I have, I deserve it, and I'm going to ask in the most loving way possible so that we don't engage in manipulation and all of these other games that keep us from being authentic. If you need a hug, then say you need a hug. If there's you need attention, then say you need attention instead of starting the argument so because you know that's going to get you the attention. Let us be adults when our inner children are asking for things so that we can tell them, you don't have to be immature about it. I got this. I got this. And if you believe that your needs are never being met, then it's time for you to ask yourself, are you meeting your needs? And if you're not, acknowledge it. Say, okay, we know we haven't been meeting all of the needs. What can I do about it? How can I change that? How can I do better by me so that I give an example to everyone else that this is the level of care that I give myself and I don't accept anything less? I am grateful that we are doing this level of work because I didn't realize just how much I was neglecting myself until I got to the point of needing other people to help me, needing a doctor, needing to take all of these tests, needing to do all of these things. I'm like, wow, Yolanda, you really dropped the ball. You really were not taking care of not just your basic needs, but mentally, emotionally, physically. You like, girl, we got to do better. And so I'm hopeful that in this year, as we are doing this inner child work, we are also saying, let me give myself all of the things that I don't think that I got and something greater. And let us not forget about play. We haven't talked about playing. How often are we playing like we used to. We still need that. Now, adult play might look different than child play, but you still need it. Next week, I'm so excited. My girlfriends from childhood are coming to my house, and I'm trying to think of what are we going to do? What we might not need to do anything except to be in each other's presence. We still need that. We still need people, no matter how old you get, no matter how crotchety you think you still need care, affection. You still need to laugh. You still need to giggle. And so I hope as we are looking at all of these different developmental stages, that you're also looking at how can I play like a baby? You know, I have the benefit of having a grandchild who will be coming over today, and I get to play with her at least once a week like a kid, although she doesn't play the way that I like to play. I get to watch her and this freedom that she has to go from this thing to that thing to this thing to that thing without any rules or regulations. How often are we doing that? How often are we letting ourselves just be wild? Everything in our lives seems to be so regimented. Let's just play. And let's find people who like to do that as well. And so I'm grateful again for this space. I'm grateful for the conversations that come from these meditations. Next week, we'll continue the discussion about birth to 18 months, and then we're going to move into 18 months to 3 years. Let me tell you something, it goes down in the next developmental stage. We learn a lot from that 18 month to 3 years of age. And so we'll talk about that. If you want to talk about anything else, then schedule some office hours with me. That's always available. If you go to my website, there is a link. You can book some time. I would love to talk to you guys about inner child work or anything under the sun. I have some things coming up that I'll be talking about on social media. Again, thank you to those of you who reached out and said, "Girl, what's going on? Well, you've been quiet." As I continue to heal, I continue to pour into the places that I can pour into. And so the Evolve community is one of those places. There's going to be a lot of activity in the next couple of days. It is my subscription plan where we not only do inner child work, we expand it to do a monthly healing session. So anyone who is subscribed to the Evolve community, we get Reiki once a month, we get meditations, and we get some other things. And so that community gets an expanded conversation around all the developmental stages for inner child healing. And again, if there's anything that I can do for you, for any of you, I am so incredibly blessed with the community that we are creating here. I did put out a subscribe a message in one of the other videos because we are getting close. If we can get close to 1,000 or more, then we can expand some of the things that we do here. And that is my hope. And I know that if you are subscribing and sharing with other people, we can get there very quickly. Every Sunday, at 1 p.m. Unless something happens, we are here. Next week, again, we talk about determination. Now, my girlfriends will be here. You might hear them in the background. I told them no matter what is going on, I'm going to be here at 1 o'clock next Saturday. I am grateful for your presence. Thank you to each of you who are present, whether it is live or through the replay. I am grateful for you, and I hope to see you next week. Love you guys. Thank you. Have a great rest of your Sunday.